Have you ever been backed into a corner, taking the blame for a prank you absolutely did not commit? Your heart races, your face gets hot, and it feels like the whole world is stacked against you. Well, imagine that feeling, but the person yelling at you is Mrs. Rita. She is a towering, impossibly loud headmistress who openly admits to her students that she thinks children are disgusting. During a particularly tense lesson, Mrs. Rita reaches for her large blue jug to pour herself a glass of water. Suddenly, a long, squirming newt slips out of the jug with the stream and plunges straight into her glass with a plop. She completely loses it. She leaps out of her chair like a rocket, screaming that it's a snake or a baby crocodile, quivering with absolute panic and fury. This illustration from the story shows exactly what happens next. The massive headmistress completely ignores the facts and zeroes all of her rage right onto Sana, one of the quietest students in the room, threatening to have her expelled. Being targeted like this creates an agonizing emotional trap. When a powerful adult wrongly accuses you, the pressure inside your chest builds instantly. You usually feel forced into one of two choices: break down crying or scream back and get into even more trouble. Sana is forced to sit back down in her chair, but underneath, a deep, unbearable anger is boiling. She knows she is completely innocent, and the sheer unfairness of the situation feels like it might make her explode from the inside out. Then something unusual happens. Instead of bursting into tears or yelling, that hot fury starts to shift. The energy gathers right behind her eyes, feeling like little sparks of electricity building up incredible, vast power. This diagram shows the process at work. Rather than letting panic scatter wildly, Sana pulls that chaotic emotion into one tight, laser-focused point. She stares steadily, feeling as though millions of invisible arms shoot from her eyes across the classroom. She locks all of her concentration onto the glass holding that squirming newt. Under her breath, she whispers a simple instruction: tip it over. And incredibly, it listens. The glass wobbles. Then, pushing against all the rules of gravity, it slowly leans backward, teetering perfectly on a single edge of its base. With one final mental push, the glass topples completely over, dumping a wave of cold water and a confused newt onto the furious headmistress's lap. Sana wins the moment. But she didn't do it by throwing a punch or shouting insults. She succeeded by taking all her intense, chaotic feelings, bottling them up, and directing them exactly where she wanted. As you might guess, Mrs. Rita goes absolutely ballistic. She jumps up, soaked and screaming, demanding to know who pushed the glass over and ordering the culprit to step forward. But look at Sana now. While the adult in the room is throwing a massive, chaotic tantrum, Sana sits perfectly still. A profound feeling of calm and serenity washes over her. When Mrs. Rita points the finger again, Sana doesn't flinch or yell. She simply states, quietly and firmly, that she hasn't moved from her desk since the lesson began. That absolute stillness completely short-circuits the teacher's wild anger. Then another teacher, Miss Priya, steps in. She calmly vouches for the children, staring right back into the giant bully's eyes without raising her voice or backing down an inch. Defeated, Mrs. Rita storms out of the room. Bullies thrive on getting you to panic or react loudly. When you refuse to give them that reaction, their chaos simply bounces off your quiet confidence. Now, pushing a glass of water with your eyeballs makes for a great story, but it is entirely fiction. However, the way Sana handled her anger, taking total control of her reaction, is a very real ability you can use every day. When someone is being deeply unfair to you, your instinct will be to explode. But if you take a breath and find your stillness first, you keep your power. You prevent them from dictating how you behave. This text box at the end of the story captures why this approach is so effective. It reminds us that true strength isn't about being loud. It's about standing your ground quietly, even when you're being falsely accused. So the next time you find yourself backed into a corner by an unfair situation, try to remember Sana. Before you shout back, gather that spark of energy inside you, channel it into focus, and choose the ultimate superpower of staying perfectly still.